Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Thank you for being here tonight. Tonight's going to be a shorter stream. We usually talk about international relations and foreign policy here. However, tonight I figured I would address something and dedicate a stream to this, which is, of course, Twitter and just some altogether smart procedures that you should have on Twitter. So, for me, I never follow more than 99 accounts. So here's the thing. I know that there are a lot of people that follow hundreds of accounts, even more than 1,000 accounts. But tonight I want to contrast. I want to compare and contrast two accounts on Twitter. That being myself and the other being Charlie Kirk. So we're going to have screenshots of both my account and his, and we're going to take a look at the differences. But before I do that, I do just want to say there are, of course, news stories and things that are, more important going on. We will get to those in the coming days. We'll also have some more guests on soon. As far as general sort of stuff that's going on right now, I am going to be taking my laptop either today or tomorrow, depending, to basically get that properly fixed so that we can bring the webcam feature back to these streams. So I'm going to get the screenshots from myself and, of course, Charlie Kirk's Twitter account here so that we can take a look at the difference between the two. So we're going to start first with mine. I am on Twitter. You can go and follow me on Twitter at Kevin Castley. This is my account. I will remove the Chiron so that we can actually see the full image. So this is what it looks like. Of course, we got Base Bolton, the hockey walrus, the based hawk as the cover photo. We got a picture of me, or a drawing of me rather, by my friend Arthur. He does some of the artwork for my channel as well as Reese of Nightmare Fuel. So definitely go check out Arthur. Follow him on Twitter at ArthurEzar. You can also check out his YouTube channel at Atheist Gone Wild, where he makes fun of people like Kyle Kalinske, Kremlin Kyle. And so what we see, I got the description and all this. I got the emojis. I'm a big fan of the emojis. And, I got the link to my account there. But all that's whatever. That can be whatever. I can replace those with different pictures. I could change my bio. I could take out the egos and put in, like, not the neoliberal globe, that'd be cringe, but I could put, the more detailed globe and have like hawks around that or eagles around that, to represent unilateral globalism over neoliberal globalism. I could change any of those descriptors in the bio. I could change whatever I like. Obviously, the followers change every day, right? Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Obviously, the trend is, despite the bumps up and down, the trend, of course, is upward over time. So, if we looked at this a year ago, it'd have about 100 followers, right? So, and of course, I lose followers, gain followers. It nets out to, a couple followers net per day right now, at least. That'll go up in the future. All that can change, though, is the point here. Like, you can see it right there. I'm looking at it from accessing my account. It says edit profile. I can change any of this. I could change the followers. I could just block everybody who follows me, and then that follower thing would change, right? I can change anything that's in here. But you know what's never going to change? You know what's never on my account ever going to change? That following in the bottom left corner right there where it says 85 that I'm following, that's never going to go past 99. That's never going to happen. That's true whether I have 5 followers or if I have 5 million followers or if I have 500 million followers. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. 99 is the limit. You might say, well, why is that? Well, we're going to talk about that right now. But before we get into that, I do want to contrast my account here, the Vanguard of the West, against Charlie Kirk, a pigeon. check him out right here. So what do we see? Well, of course, he's got the cover profile. He's got his profile. He's got the cover. So what does he have for the cover? He's got the MAGA Doctrine, New York Times bestseller, Amazon bestseller, available now. The MAGA Doctrine, Charlie Kirk. He's got a picture right there of the orange man hugging the Star-Spangled Banner. He writes, the MAGA Doctrine, the only ideas that will win the future. Yeah, well, we'll see about that, Charlie. You know, we are going to have a neocon renaissance one day after Trump's out, after the Republican Party goes back to normalcy, and his little cringy wing, his little pigeon wing of the party will be routed, and Tucker won't even have a job at Fox anymore. He'll have to like go on Russia Today with Larry King and stuff, and Jesse Ventura and Abby Martin. Well, I guess Abby Martin isn't there. She decided she wanted to shell for Maduro instead now. So, you know, too bad, too sad, you know. So then what do we see? Well, we got the option to follow him right here. Do we want to follow him? I'm not really feeling like following him very much. So I'm going to say no to that. He's got DMs open. That's notable. That's notable. I've alternated between that. I have them open right now, but I do receive a lot of spam and cringe, and a lot of people get blocked right off the DM. So there's that. So what does it say here? Well, we got his profile picture. Now, I'm pretty sure that's actually the proportions of his face. It's hard to tell with Charlie Kirk because there's so many memes out there where some of them are obvious, where they've shrunk his like eyes and nose and mouth relative to, you know, the face itself, that it's pretty obvious that they shrunk the internal features of his face. But sometimes if they shrink it by like 15%, it's really hard to tell. Like I've seen memes that were photoshopped of Charlie to make his internal features on his face look smaller than the face itself, where you honestly can't tell. You're like, it's uncanny, something's off. But, you know, that could be a picture of him. This one, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. That's probably the proper internal facial features relative to the overall, you know, head of his, right? That's probably it. I mean, it's his account, right? But there's a chance that if he was lazy one day and instead of uploading a picture from his own camera roll of a selfie of him, he decided, oh, you know, well, I'm famous, I'll just Google my own name. And he went to Google Images and he downloaded that. And it turned out that the one that he downloaded was one that was made by a troll. And they didn't make it very big or obvious. They only altered his the ratio by let's say 7%, so that his eyes and his nose and his mouth, they're only shrunk by about 7%. It's kind of hard to tell. Would Charlie notice? Or would he be like, oh, that looks like me, I'll upload that? So there's a chance that's not the accurate representation of him if he got lazy one day. Because there's so many fake pictures of Charlie Kirk out there where they've altered his facial proportions. There's a chance. All I'm saying is there's a chance. It has to be under 10% shrunk, though, if that is the case. Probably like 2%. Probably very indistinguishable. But we'll just say that that's actually his profile picture. So we'll just go with that. Then what does it say here? Charlie Kirk. Oh, look at that. He's verified. I'm not verified yet. So, you know, that'll happen one day. So, you know. Good for you, Charlie. At Charlie Kirk 11. That's kind of funny. I don't really get the reference there. Like, you're super famous and everything, but you can't just be Charlie Kirk. There are like 10 other Charlie Kirks that beat you to it. No, that has to be a reference to something. I don't really follow this guy very much. So if you in the chat know what that's a reference to, let me know. So founder and president, Turning Point USA. Chair at Trump Students, host of The Charlie Kirk Show, author of The MAGA Doctrine, We Are All Sinners Saved by Jesus, Opinions Here Are My Own. He's got his location there, Phoenix, Arizona. I don't have my location, but, you know, everybody kind of knows where I am already, so that's not a big deal. He's got joined May 2011. Oh, well, see, I joined right around 2012. We joined at a similar time. I've had people say to me before, they're like, Kevin, what a loser. You've been tweeting for 9 years and you only have like 600 followers. And it's like, what a brainlet. I've been tweeting since the summer of last year. I made my account years before then. I didn't really do anything with it until I decided that I was going to start posting Hawk stuff on Twitter. So once I decided I wanted to grow my channel and everything. Same with my YouTube channel. I think I created it in 2013, got busy with university, didn't upload any videos until like late, late. I think it was 2019 or no, it would have been early 2019 rather. I think it was like March 2019. I actually uploaded something, but the channel was created 6 years prior. I was too busy with school. So then here we go. Here we go. We get to the substance. We get to the juicy stuff. So we look at the bottom of the image right here. Now, you'll notice on the right, 1.7 million followers. Not bad. That's impressive. That is objectively impressive. Whether you're left, right, centrist, liberal, conservative, doesn't matter. 1.7 million followers. Gotta respect that. That's good. That's it's a good following. Good following. Big platform. A lot of people want to hear what this guy has to say. But then we scroll over to the left. And you're thinking like 228.4 followers. How does that make any sense? No, 228.4K followers. This guy's following a small city. And I was rushed prior to going live tonight. Got off work late, etc., But here's the deal. I did not get a chance to look at what city has a comparable population to that. But the man is following a small city's worth of people right here. I'm just going to look up, city with 220,000 people. Let's see what we got. I mean, because that's a pretty big number of people. That's more people than you'll ever meet in your life by a long shot. I mean, let's say you met one person a day. Like actually met one person a day on average. Your whole life. You're going to meet like at most, if you live to be 100, you're going to meet about 37,000 people. This guy's following 8 times that many people. That's the equivalent of meeting 8 people every day for 100 years. This guy's not 100. So my question is, does this guy have a bot or something that's following for him? Like usually people get Twitter bots to spam block people or to basically make it so that you don't see anything that has a certain word in it or whatnot. It almost is as if this guy designed a bot to follow as many people as possible, which is really counterproductive. So, yeah, we're just going to take a look at right here. Okay, so we got Wolverhampton, England, has a population of 250,000 people. Town of Porto, Portugal, has about 250,000 people. This guy's following almost as many people as the city of Porto in Portugal. That's amazing. So even though he's following, close to about 2,000 times as many people, or rather, he has about 2,000 times as many followers as I do. We have about the same ratio of following per follower. That's kind of amazing. That's kind of amazing that you would be able to rack up that much of a following, but then also then go and follow like 1/7 of that. Like usually if somebody follows 1/7 as many of their followers, you would think, oh, they probably have like 1,000 followers and they follow like 150 people or whatever. No, yeah, he's got 1.7 million people, and you're like, wait, but that would have to be an absurd number of followers. That has to be fake news, dude. No, it's not fake news. That's right there. Like this is as of like 20 minutes ago when I pulled this. Again, that's just amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I know that there are other events going on in the world right now. I just wanted to talk about this. I'm just, I just noticed things. So it's kind of incredible. Now, we'll get into the substance of the stream, which is why this all matters. Because, of course, you could say, well, ratios matter. And, of course, that's obvious. Basic psychology, first impressions. Most people get their first impression of you in like an instant, a few seconds. So if they see that, you've got 10 times as many people following you as you are following people think you're important. If you're following 10 times as many people as are following you, then people think you're not really important. even if in the second case you still had more followers than the first guy. Like, let's say that the first guy had 1,000 followers and he was following 100 people, but then the second guy, he's following, say, 1,000 people, but in that case, he has, for example, or rather, let's say that he's got what is it? Like, let's say that he's got 100,000 followers, right? But he's following 1 million people. That's not going to be impressive. That's not impressive at all, actually. And sometimes I'll see that with accounts. I've even had accounts before make fun of me and say, oh, the guy with 500 followers or whatever it was at the time is trying to lecture me. It's like, you look at how many followers I have, bro, and they have like 22,000 followers. And then you look at how many people they're following, and they're following like 20,700 people. And you're like, dude, you're following almost as many people as are following you. You know what that makes me think? That makes me think of those old Zoomerisms, those cringe Zoomerisms of hashtag like for like and hashtag follow for follow. The most vapid millennial / Zoomer tier, just ultimate meaningless ploys for attention, essentially. In other words, their following is unearned. It's a veneer of following. It's unimpressive, to say the least. And it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. So, because they only got that many followers because they followed people, and people are like, oh, I'll follow him back. So obviously the people that are following him, not very bright, but then he's following them because he wants their followers. So it's just a circle of insanity. It's a circle of circusry. So I will be looking at the chat fairly soon, though. I know we actually had Wyatt in here earlier. I hope Wyatt's still here. I'm just taking a look at the chat now. Welcome, Wyatt. So if Wyatt's still here, and we got Kirk Wilcox and we got a few other people, we'll get to the chat very soon. So definitely get to the chat very soon. So I do, however, want to go over why this is important. So when you're on Twitter, you're going to eventually have to weed out people. You're going to notice things that people change as time goes on. This has happened to me. It'll happen to you. Happens to everybody. Whether you change or not, somebody that you're following is going to change. People in your circle might change. Things happen. For me, I vow never to follow more than 99 people. I do regular purges of whom I'm following. I think, do I really want to follow this person? Are they still earning my follow, etc.? Am I still interested in their content? They might be still regularly posting, but I just might not be interested in what they have to say anymore. We might go separate ways. There might be drama, etc. So, there's regular rounds of purges. So we keep the ratio clean. We keep the following clean. Keep it, accurate. Make it, people that, they deserve to be followed. John Bolton, for example, right? Nikki Haley. Follow Nikki Haley. Follow Ben Shapiro. Follow Joe Biden. So, just for some examples, I also follow Reese of Nightmare Fuel. Follow Anthony Avis Dubisson. And you can go and subscribe to his channel. That's Anthony Avis Dubisson. He is a very, very smart man. Very intelligent. I learn a lot from him. I mean, the fact that he puts this stuff out there for free, I mean, man, we owe him some gratitude for that. I mean, the guy's a real expert in his field. So I appreciate that. I follow Wyatt, for example. Wyatt runs, he helps run the National Telegraph. So that's base. Obviously, I'm going to follow him. I mean, he's a patron of the channel. Of course, he's getting a follow. And of course, we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. We have our disagreements, but, we have a lot in common. And I think in this era of cringe, this era that is both at the same time very, very weak on foreign policy and where our civilization is waning in terms of influence and political will on the world stage, as well as on the internal struggle between the woke culture and sanity. We are both on the side of sanity. We're both on the side of a strong foreign policy. So even though we got, disagreements here and there and stuff, we're on the same side at the end of the day. And that is in a way remarkable right now, because a lot of people have been brought up on this idea of, oh, Bush and Cheney bad. We're still living in 2003. Neocon ghouls. Iran's the good guy. Russia's the victim. George H.W. Bush said he wouldn't expand NATO, but then Bill Clinton did expand NATO. So Putin's actually the good guy, okay? Yeah, sure, he like kills people and does like invasions of Europe and stuff and invades Ukraine and Georgia, but like he's the victim, bro. He's anti-imperialist. He invaded Georgia out of anti-imperialism, bro. Like that kind of cringe, right? And of course, we got the wokery. We've got the riots. We've got the, just stuff like Trump derangement syndrome, too. Like, obviously, I've got so many criticisms of Trump, but a lot of the people that are criticizing Trump, they're doing it in a disingenuous way where, like, if Obama did the same stuff, they would be defending him. I'm not down with that. So, but we're going to go into why this really matters. And so that's because people can change. And so for me, if I'm following less than 100 people, and I'm just going to use that rule of thumb of, let's say, 99 people, and you might say, well, is there much of a difference between 99 and 100? Not really, but it keeps it more clean, the ratio-wise and everything. It looks better. It's 2 digits. It's a good benchmark. 100 isn't really going to change it too much, but there is a threshold. Now, I know people have said, about 80 is the most that you can reasonably expect to follow and gain value from each of them. Once you follow more than 80 people, you're not going to see what everybody's saying, that kind of stuff. So there's an argument to be made that you should actually make it like 79 or 80. That can be tough, though, because there are a lot of people that do deserve a follow. You just have to be selective with it, and you have to be conservative with whom you choose to follow. And one thing that makes it easier is regularly reviewing who you're following, why you're following them, if you're still interested in them. And then if you decide you're not interested in following that person anymore, you unfollow them. And then when you do see somebody that does pique your interest, instead of having me like, oh, but then I have to go through and delete some followings, you can just be like, oh, I'm only following 72 people now. I have room, so I can go and follow them right away, right? That's helpful too. So again, this is just, some advice for being on Twitter, having a presence on Twitter. Twitter matters. By the way, a lot of people say Twitter doesn't matter. No, Twitter does matter. Obviously, Twitter matters. It's the social media venue of choice for the president of the United States, for example. So obviously, it's important. You want to have a voice out there if you're in any way trying to build, influence in online spaces. You want to have a presence on Twitter, right? So, but you got to go about it smart. Once you get past like 100 people, though, 99, 100 people, here's the problem. You still might be able to keep tabs on people. It's possible. For sure, it's possible. I mean, technically, it'd be possible up to, several hundred, right? But it gets to be a lot of work, and that's not practical. So you're going to lose track of people. And then, one day it turned out, people are going to be like, why are you following that Nazi? Why are you following that communist? And you're like, what communist? They're like, dude, didn't you just see what this guy said? Why are you following him? Whereas if you're following 85 people and one of them starts to get a little bit commie, you can find that out right away and be like, oh, unfollowed. We're cool. Done and dusted, right? Or if they start getting a little bit Nazi, you can be like, you had a good run, but we're done, son. So done and dusted. Move on, right? So that's the deal there. That's part of it, right? Is that it just makes it much more easier to just keep tabs on people. The second part is more important if you're somebody like Charlie Kirk. Not so important to somebody like me, depending on who you are. I know we've got, some people with decent following that watch this channel, thousands of followers or more, right? So if you're somebody that's really got, a larger presence online, you're somebody who cares about your perceived reputation, that kind of stuff, this gets to be more important because now it's not just about making your timeline clean so you can actually see everybody that you're following and get value from them and not be missing people. And you can keep tabs on people. But more, this is about the keeping tabs part of it. But this is important if you're really trying to build up a big presence and you're trying to, have a positive image, right, that you're projecting to the world, which is that, let's say that you were slacking about it. Let's say you were lazy about it and you were following, say, I don't know, 890 people. And you might have 100,000 followers, but you're following 890 people. And you think to yourself, hey, look, man, my ratio is killer. I've got I've got over 100 times as many people following me as I'm following. And I'd be like, yes, that's a good ratio. But it's not all about the ratio. It is about absolute numbers here. And why is that? Because if 500 billion people were following you and you were like, oh, I'm only following 1 million people, so the ratio is still clean. You'd be like, yeah, but here's the deal. You're following a city of people. Is one of those people going to turn out to be like a notorious pedophile? Is one of them becoming a Nazi that's going to do some crazy stuff in 5 weeks? Maybe, probably. There are a lot of people in 1 million people. There are a lot of people in 228,400 people. So is Charlie Kirk following a pedophile? That's almost not debatable. Of course he's following a pedophile. Is Charlie Kirk following a Nazi? Of course he is. Is Charlie Kirk following a communist? Absolutely. There's no way he's not. And is that Charlie Kirk's fault? Well, no. I would be shocked if he ever followed anybody. I'm not really that much a fan of Charlie. I don't like this this brand of isolationist, ultra protectionist, anti-NATO type U.S. policy. I don't like the sycophancy for Donald Trump specifically. I'm not a fan of the paleocon brand of the Republican Party. Obviously, I'm into the neocon brand, right? So we don't have very much in common. This guy agrees with Kyle Kulinski on Afghanistan. This guy wants to surrender to the Taliban. Obviously, we don't have very much in common. I'm not really a fan of this guy, but I'm not going to say that he purposefully followed a communist or a Nazi. It would shock me if he did. There's no way. But is he following them? Yes. Why? Because when he followed whoever it was, they probably seemed normal. People change over time. People go crazy. You're following a small city of people. You're following the city of Porto, Portugal. Are there crazies in that city that used to be normal? Without question. Probably dozens, hundreds. Hundreds. And that just happens over time. That's entropy. Things tend to decay. An ordered system tends to disorder as time progresses. That's not complicated. Again, he's following a small city of people. He says Phoenix, Arizona. That's his location right there. What's the population of Phoenix? I'm going to look that up right now. I don't know that offhand. Because there's a chance he's following the same order of magnitude as Phoenix has population. That'd be amazing. Okay, so Phoenix has got 1.66 million people. So different order of magnitude. But still, he's only off by 1 order of magnitude there. It's kind of weak. You've got over 1 million followers, and again, you're following 6-figure people. That's kind of funny. Kind of funny. And I just use Charlie Kirk as an example here. I'm sure there are other accounts that are like this too, on a smaller scale. They might have like 100,000 followers and they're following like 20,000 people. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, obviously, you're not getting value out of all those 20,000 people. You're probably only seeing about 80 of them on a regular basis. The algorithms are designed in such a way as to show you what you get value out of and find interesting, right? So even if Charlie Kirk were to scroll through a lot of his timeline, he probably wouldn't see that kind of stuff because, the algorithms, they're going to give him the accounts that he usually purposefully will enter in and type to see what they're up to, right? He would just completely miss if somebody became a Nazi. It would be impossible to keep track of all of that. Even if he devoted 24 hours a day to it, it would be impossible. 228,000 people is a huge number. Even if that was 28,000, it would be almost, it would probably still be beyond the threshold of impossibility at that point for one person. I did say that we'll be looking at the chat. I will be looking at the chat soon, definitely before we wrap this up. I just have a lot of stuff to say on this. So Getting back to what I was talking about, though, the reason why this matters if you're somebody with a bigger presence is that your brand matters. And so if you're somebody that's, getting into the spotlight, you don't want to see that there's going to be an article written about you somewhere, like even in like a hacky type publication like BuzzFeed or the Huffington Post or something. You don't want them to say like, this guy follows a Nazi. Got him. It's like, yeah, and he also follows 228,399 other people. So, I mean, context kind of matters, right? I could do that hit piece on Charlie Kirk. I could just, design some sort of bot that scans through everybody's following and detects like alt-right phrases and stuff. I could be like, Charlie Kirk, he's following 722 Nazis. And it's like, yeah, and he probably has no idea any of them even exist because he's following 228,400 people. I mean, look at that. The 0.4 on there, that margin there is between 0.4 and the 0.5. That rounding is as many people as I follow. That's just the rounding error for him. So there's no way. There's no way. So you could do that hit piece. And the thing is, with Charlie, a lot of people I'm sure would recognize, like, yeah, but hey, look, he's following a ton of people. But again, let's say that you had 100,000 followers, but you're following like 800 people. You're still not going to be able to keep track of that. And you're going to say, well, I have a better following ratio than Charlie. Yeah, I get it. But absolute numbers matter. You cannot realistically keep tabs on more than between 80 and 99 people or so. So following 800 puts you in the same position as Charlie, where you're not able to see what everybody's up to. The only difference is that there's a lower chance that you winding up following crazy people, right? With Charlie Kirk, it's inevitable that some of them will turn out to be crazy. I mean, he's probably following serial killers without knowing it, right? People that will make the news in 6 years or 9 years or 14 months from now. And there'll be a caveat like Charlie Kirk is following this guy, if it's like a super hacky type of publication. Young Turks, like Charlie Kirk followed the insert city name here, murderer, that kind of thing, right? It's like, yeah, but he didn't know about it. It's not like he followed him for that reason. The dude just obviously doesn't know how to follow and behave on Twitter. That's, it's not a crime. It's just, you see how it lends itself to the hacks out there, right? So I'm just telling you all this as a bit of advice that if you want to get big and you want to protect your reputation and everything, just like don't follow more people than you can handle keeping regular tabs on. And I would say if you want to be smart about it and get full value out of everybody you're following, follow 80 to 100 people. 99 is better as the threshold because it's 2 digits, so it looks cleaner. So your ratio will be up, different order of magnitude, etc. Right? And additionally, be very conservative in, whom you reward that following with, because your following matters. Your following does matter. It's like how every vote does technically count, right? It's like the deal is a follower matters. In aggregate, they matter a lot. But you need to think of yourself as more important than you might perceive yourself. Because it's not just about the value of what you're adding to them by being that extra follower. It's that what happens if somebody that you follow because maybe they had a good meme or something, but they've got, 119,000 other tweets. What happens if some of those other tweets that they post over the next few years turn out to be like super dicey? Like, I don't know, Holocaust denial, for example. Do you really want to be following them? Well, if you're following 800 people, you're not going to keep track of that. And that's true whether you have 100,000 followers, 5 million followers, or 5 followers. It does not matter. What matters is the absolute value of the number of people you're following. So I don't care if you got 5 million followers, don't follow more than 99 people. I don't care if you have 5 followers, don't follow more than 99 people. That's just the rule of thumb right here. Just my advice. So we're going to take a look at the chat and then we're going to wrap up the stream. So we got Natalie here tonight. Very cool. Welcome, Natalie. Uriel Suarez said, I got 99 opinions, but a communism ain't one. Kevin Castley, based. Yeah, we got Wyatt. He says, hi, welcome, Wyatt. Big up, Wyatt. Big up to all the patrons. Uriel says, 99 political opinions on the Twitter wall, 99 political opinions. You take one down, democracy, and pass it around. Oh, man. 98 terrorists hiding behind a wall. Oh, man. That's funny. Yeah. Natalie says, I'll never sign up for Twitter ever again. Oh, yeah. No, Twitter's a very toxic place. It's just, it matters and it's important to be on there if you're trying to build a social media presence in other platforms too and get the message out. So the message matters because we're trying to save our civilization here. And so it is critically important that we get the word out and that we hawk pill the world, right? So that's what matters. That's absolutely what matters. At least for me, that's my mission here. That is what I'm about. And yes, is it toxic? Absolutely. However, and I'm not advising everybody to sign up for it, especially if you find it to be excessively toxic. I understand it. However, there is a ban hammer for a reason, and I very liberally utilize the ban hammer now. This is me. This is how I handle Twitter. I'll say this, in 2 sentences, you can basically summarize my policies with respect to how I handle Twitter. 1, I am very conservative with my following. And 2, I am very liberal with the ban hammer. That tells you everything you need to know, and you should be like that too. So, yes, so we have Wyatt here earlier. He said that Sloan, that's Derek Sloan, who's running for the Conservative Party of Canada's leadership nomination process right now. If you are Canadian and you're a member of the Conservative Party of Canada and you are eligible to vote in this leadership election, I would definitely encourage you to check out Derek Sloan. So he says that Sloan said that he would designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. That is based. And honestly, that sounds like a no-brainer, but you would be surprised at the fecklessness and the lack of political will and the worry of not appearing woke and whatnot that we have going on today, where to just simply do what Sloan has said here takes real courage. And that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't take real courage to stand out and do that. But such is the era of cringe in which we live. And that's true in Canada, that's true in the United States. So Oriel Suarez says Kevin never holds more than 99 cents in his pocket. No, actually, holding physical cash in your wallet is good. Definitely good. I mean, it's always preferable to pay with cash because if you pay with cash for stuff, it activates. I mean, Dave Ramsey talks about this. If you guys watch Dave Ramsey, he's based in Wealth Pilled. He talks about how if you pay with cash, you're activating pain receptors in your brain that make you feel a sense of loss, that you just lost that $20 bill in exchange for something. Whereas if you pay with debit, you don't really feel that loss. Now, psychologically, you've just lost $20. You've exchanged $20. But it doesn't activate those old school receptors in your brain. So it doesn't feel like you really lost anything. I mean, hey, man, it's just plastic, right, bro? So Natalie says Wyatt based. Yep, base Wyatt. Base Wyatt, base patron. And go check out the National Telegraph for sure. So we got Wyatt Lightpool. He says, slowly rolling back the radical Islamist creep. He also says, I wish I got more cringe DMs. Nah, not enviable. I'm glad you don't. There are a lot of losers on Twitter, a lot of neoliberal losers on Twitter that are obsessed with me. And because so many of them are blocked, they keep on making sock accounts to try to get into my DMs. And then those get blocked. They're just a very petty and petulant little group of man children for the most part. Except a lot of them aren't even like 18 yet. So there's that. The Zoomer gang. Nicholas says, oh dear, the squish face MAGA wrote a book. Charlie Kirk is cringe. Yeah, we got Mexicanator here tonight. Nicholas says, I think his face is proof positive that he's the Brown Fabio equivalent on the right. Oh man. Yeah, Brown Fabio, that is a throwback right there. That of course is the Ruse nickname. Devin Tracy's nickname for Hassan Piker. Now, of course, I like what Dragon said, his nickname is, which is Guantanamo Bay. Now, that's not Guantanamo Bay as in, the base that the United States has. It's Guantanamo BAE, right? Before anyone else. I love it. It's so base because, of course, he calls himself Woke Bay. No, he's Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo. Before anyone else. Let's ship him off. Let's ship him off. Dude thinks America deserved 9/11. Let's shoot him off. Right over to the Guantanamo. Before anyone else. Before anyone else. Oh, I love that. We got so many clever memers in the Hot Gang, by the way. Like, nobody can even compete with us. Nobody can even compete with us. Got Nicholas. He says that Trump grabbing the flag was brilliant pandering. And he made it his book cover, bootlicker. Oh, man. We got Uriel. He says, this is why I want Southern Arizona to break off from the rest of Arizona. Besides, Southern Arizona is the real Arizona. We keep the Arizona name. They can have the Northern Arizona name. Oh, man. I don't know too much about Arizona politics to comment on that. So, Kirk Wilcox writes, Charlie Kirk is pathetic. Freedom and capitalism deserve much better advocates. And I agree. I agree. Yeah, we got Nicholas. He writes, Kirk Wilcox greater than Kirk Charlie. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Oh, we got Anthony Roberto here tonight, based. What up, Anthony? So, yeah, for those that are just watching right now, there's no time delay or anything. I just had about 35 minutes of monologue, and now I am going through all of the chat in its totality right now and responding to comments that I think deserve to be highlighted. So, White writes, people like Kirk seem like they would weaken on capitalists if it got popular, too. Oh, yeah, it's all like contrarianism and being edgy and stuff, for sure. Not much in the way of real principles. PJ writes, I really do hope the GOP changes after Trump. Oh, it's going to happen. We're going to have a neocon renaissance. So, Base Bolton will be back. White Claypool writes, Charlie Kirk's following does make him seem insecure, like he has enough followers already, but he still has to do the follow for follow thing. Oh, absolutely. It strikes me as petulantly adolescent in a way that is funny because a lot of people might see it as more of a sign of being humble and whatnot. To me, it strikes me as more of a millennial slash Zoomerism kind of meme of follow for follow. I guess I feel pressured to follow and stuff. That's actually weak. And honestly, a rule of word of advice here, rather, people don't really respect that. Like, even just on a subconscious level, people don't really respect that. People are far more likely to be respectful and take seriously somebody who honestly doesn't really care if you follow them or not, because they're gonna say what they feel. Like me, I do not care if you follow me or unfollow me on Twitter. It's as simple as that. I'm gonna be tweeting what I tweet either way. It's irrelevant to me. Would I prefer to have more followers? Absolutely. I would rather have a million followers than 600 and something followers like I have right now, right? But am I going to change the way I tweet, what I write, what I believe, etc.? Am I going to change my presence, change my stance? Am I going to lie? Am I going to clown myself in order to get a million? No. Because what would even be the point in having a million if with that fame you're known as the circus clown? What would even be the point? Right? Like I said, I'll be doing this for 50 years. It's a long game, long game. I'm not interested in this, make a clown of yourself and go viral. Not interested in that. Not my style, bro. So, Nicholas writes, I bet it comes down to his quote unquote brand. Kind of like how it is with Kim Kardashian. Maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, and of course, Uriel Suarez writes, since statistics is in a pool population of 100,000 people, which is true, a lot of stats are measured per 100,000. He is highly likely to follow a couple serial killers. Oh, for sure. For sure. But that's the thing. He doesn't know it. It's not his fault. The only fault of his is for being gullible and insecure enough to follow that many people. So I guess my question for the chat now, I am slowly catching up on the chat. My question, and I will get to your responses for sure, is do we believe that he personally followed all those people? Or does he have like some kind of bot that goes around and follows people that I guess like praise Trump or something? I don't know. Because I'm naive here. I think that there's a chance that he actually just followed like 1,000 people a day for a while. I don't know. It must be a bot. But I just mean there's a chance that he personally has followed like a decent percentage of that. It's probably augmented with some sort of bot. But I mean, in order to do that, in order to be that eccentrically insecure, I'm sure he's personally followed at least 20,000 people. That's just my take, though. I want to see what the chat gang has to say. Wyatt Claypool says, I think Kirk must think following people makes them feel cool because he followed them. Oh, yeah. Like, here's the thing. I just want to be very clear with you. I know people that are followed by him that have less than 1,000 followers, but they're followed by him. Here's the deal. I already talked about how I brought up his profile picture and I brought up his account and I said, well, what do we see? We see that we have the option to follow him. Do we want to follow him, gang? And I'm like, no, I don't really think we want to follow him. I don't really feel like following him. If I woke up tomorrow and I saw Charlie Kirk has followed you, I would say, that's cool. Now I've got 627 followers. Very cool. And I would go about my day. And instead of tweeting like I tweeted today, imagine being a communist in 1960. Tomorrow I'll tweet, imagine being a communist in 1961 with the cringe emoji. Nowhere in that schedule do I include, of course, following Charlie Kirk back. That's not even up for debate. Why would I follow Charlie Kirk? Oh, he follows you, bro. It's like, so you have to earn my following. You don't earn the following just by following me. I'm not one of those Zoomers. I'm not a cringe tier millennial. I'm a hawk. You're going to have to do better than that. You have to actually be interesting. You actually have to be somebody that deserves to be followed. It takes a lot. So you got to be like Reese or Bolton or Wyatt. So, like, I would sooner follow Donald Trump than I would follow Charlie Kirk. I'll say that. And I'm not following Donald Trump, so. Yeah, Kirk seems like someone who has made a business out of bandwagoning. Oh yeah, like he used to be super open borders type neolib, and now he's like a super paleocon type MAGA guy. And he agrees with Kyle Kulinski, who's like this far left progressive anti-war guy who sounds like Noam Chomsky. Yeah, and of course Arthur wrote after I concluded my monologue, he says, solid advice. So yeah, thanks for being here, Arthur. And, appreciate your memes and everything. Keep up the good work. Wyatt says Kevin likes feeling hurt by paying money. Oh, man. Wyatt says, I have a neo-Nazi Golden Dawn supporter who keeps DMing me on Facebook every once in a while, trying to brag about how, quote unquote, influential he is. In parentheses, Wyatt writes, he is not. I know he got kicked out of the local party. Influence. I'm sure he has a lot of influence in the local basement where they play like World of Warcraft or something, like the South Park boys back in the day. And they talk about my master race and stuff. Oh, how sad. Oh, we got Nick here. Very cool. Nicholas Elodian, the only respectable neoliberal. Well, that's not true. I like Ali 1776, but one of the few respectable neoliberals on Twitter. One of the only guys that I can actually tolerate. That's saying something right there. And he says, proud to be one of the 99. Oh yeah, no, dude, you're OG. You're OG. We disagree on stuff, but I like you. You're cool. So you don't really strike me as the kind of person to just go around and like get petty and counsel people and all that kind of stuff. You're kind of above the fray. You just strike me as somebody who like is there for the memes and stuff, and that I can respect that. You know, I'm a meme god myself. Go and follow my meme page, Liberal Hawk Memes for Moral Universalist Teens on Facebook. We're coming up on 2,500 followers. We'll put the link in the Chiron right here. So the name of the group and the Chiron, name of the page. So we got Wyatt Claypool. He writes, Kirk became popular at a time that made him instantly suspicious, or rather, that made me, Wyatt, instantly suspicious of him because it was too much after the wave of Ben Shapiro, who actually slowly refined his views and delivery. Oh, no, there's a reason why I'm following Ben Shapiro and not following Charlie Kirk, because one is a principled man that I can respectfully either agree or disagree with, and the other is obviously a grifty grifter. So we got Olympic God here tonight. He says, hi there, guys, with some Eagles based. Welcome. Nicholas says, it's not outside the realm of possibility that he's doing it himself. Some clout chasers basically live on Twitter. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, some people actually spend literally hours a day on Twitter. They don't just like check their phone every couple hours and put out a couple tweets. Like, they are on Twitter. That's what they do. That is their existence. That is a big yikes. So, but I have a suspicion that, you know, Nicholas, I'm leaning in that direction. So Arthur Izar comments, we should experiment. Let's follow him. Who of us will Charlie Kirk follow back? Oh, that's such a good point, because realistically speaking, if 7 of us follow him, statistically speaking, 1 is going to get followed back. That's the ratio. He's following about 1/7 as many people as he has followers. So if we did that with, you know, let's say we got a sample of 49 accounts, all followed him, we would expect 7 to be followed back by him. We'll give him a couple days leeway, see what happens. He's on Twitter every day. Let's see what happens. Let's go. Let's do it, Hawking. Let's try it out. So, and then we'll review the results in a couple days if you guys are down. So, if you guys don't mind just following somebody for a couple days, you can unfollow him after that. We'll see. So, Nick said, I stopped doing follow for follow a while ago. Oh, I never did follow for follow. So it's obviously going to take me a lot longer to grow my following, but like I have real followers. All of my followers follow me because of what I say. Now, that might trigger a lot of people. I know a lot of people are very uncomfortable with what I have to say, especially around foreign policy, war, doctrines related to that kind of stuff. Obviously, first use, obviously the nuke pill, that ruffles a lot of people's jimmies. My views on the wealth economy versus the debt economy. My views on unilateralism as opposed to international law and institutions, bro. The neoconservatism, that gets under a lot of people's skin. I'm a bit ghoulish, but, you know, I have kind of a small following, but they're all real followers who, you know, when they see all that, they're like, oh man, this guy's based. So, and they followed me knowing I wasn't going to follow them back. So I follow a couple back if they're interesting enough, right? So yeah, I like this. Nicholas writes, the UN is a glorified anti-Israel lobby. I don't even know why. Well, I know why. I can do a stream on it. I can do many videos on that. Not a fan of the United Nations. I did Model United Nations. If you guys have ever like heard of Model United Nations before, I did Model United Nations for about 2.5 years in high school, and I did Model United Nations for about 3.5 years in university. I obviously studied the UN quite a bit. I took a course on the UN when I was doing my political science degree. And let me just say, the United Nations has, since its inception in 1945, since the very beginning, it did not become corrupted. I just want to make this very clear. There's this misconception out there in the discourse that somehow the United Nations was well intentioned, it was good, but recently it's become corrupted and stuff. And I wish we could just get back to the UN as like a force for good in the world. No, I want to make something very clear right now. The United Nations has, since its very inception, been a compromise between good and evil. It has never been a good institution, not once ever. It emerged in the aftermath of the Second World War, and it was a compromise struck between the free islands of liberty in the West and the continents of tyranny in the East, between the United States and Joseph Stalin. It was never a force for good. It has always been the middle ground between good and evil. And I got news, dudes. Halfway between good and evil is still evil. Like, let's just make that very clear. Let's make that very clear. There is no, Stalin says this, Truman says that, I can't decide who's right. No, Truman is on the right side. That the only way that the United Nations makes sense is if you are a degenerate moral relativist, realist, who thinks, meh, you're born in the Soviet Union, so what they torture you and disappeared your family in the night? That's their sphere of influence, bro. It's not like human rights matter over there. Human rights are just a social construct, bro. They're an imperialism, bro. That's what the neocon ghouls say, bro. I mean, neocons weren't really a thing as we knew them yet, but you get the idea, right? No, fuck the United Nations. Like, I'm with John Bolton on this. Base Bolton, what did he say? He said you could take 20 floors off the UN headquarters in New York, and the world would be no worse off for it. He's right. Now, of course, I would rather have those 20 floors still, kick the UN out and say, hey, look, we're going to have this as like low-income housing or something, right? It'd be cool. It'd be a cool project. Like, let's say that you just converted the UN building in New York and said, we're done with the UN. It's going to be NATO from now on. We do not care at all what Russia and China have to say. We know what they're going to say. We know what the Arab dictatorships are going to say about Israel and stuff. Of course, with the exception of like Saudi Arabia, but like, you get the idea. We know what Iran is going to say. We understand that. There's literally no point, because we know what these NPC tin pot despots are going to say. They're going to say USA bad, Israel bad. We don't need them there. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, but they have militaries, man. So by having them there, we can keep the peace. Yeah, that's not a real peace. I'm not interested in that kind of peace. You know what kind of peace I'm interested in? United States of the world. That's the kind of peace I'm interested in, where we don't have a world divided between islands of freedom and continents of slavery. We have a world that is a planet of freedom. And the Russians and the communist Chinese and the Iranians, their regimes are blown to the end of the earth, and the people are liberated. Now, we can do that through bankrupting them. In the case of, communist China, fascist Russia, it can be done. I talk about that on this channel. Iran's going to take a war. You're not getting around that. North Korea is going to take a small nuclear war. There's no getting around that. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm not interested in this. Let's compromise. Let's hear what Putin has to say. Yeah, I know what Putin's going to say. I'm done. Let's just kick them out of the United Nations and make that building a low-income rental unit in New York. It'd be cool. It'd be based. It'd be doing the world more of a favor than this, where we just sit around and circle jerk and say Israel bad and say that the U.S. is the bad guy. On U.S. territory, too. Oh, how weak. Like, at least put the UN in like Switzerland or something, because we know that Switzerland's already morally depraved, that they work with the North Koreans. right? That they're totally cool with genocide, that they were cool with Hitler. We already know Switzerland is not an ally, that they are, morally degenerate. We already understand it. To have it in New York, that's just that is spitting in the face of America's founders, no doubt. You hate to see it. So we're gonna go back to the chat. No, I hate the United Nations. Nick says, I used to love the UN, but I'm more skeptical of it now. Oh, be careful. You might get canceled by the neolibs. So just be careful, my dude. That's all I got to say. They might think you're like a unilateral neocon, man. That's like the worst thing that could happen to a neolib is getting accused of being a neocon. A neocon ghoul. Yeah, Winter's here. Winter writes, spending hours a day on Twitter sounds like a nightmare. Yeah, what I love is like Nightmare Fuel, right? Nightmare Fuel spends probably like 1 minute a day on average on Twitter, which means like for weeks he won't even tweet. And then on the days that he does tweet, he might spend like 15 minutes on Twitter. That dude knows how to live. If you're spending hours a day on Twitter, there's a problem. I'm just going to say there's a problem. I don't care how many followers you have. I mean, get a life, right? Wyatt says, I used to follow people because they followed me out of pity. Oh, pity for them, yeah. Olympian God writes, when Palestine does something, UN, I sleep. When Israel does something, real shit. Yeah, from the UN. Yeah, no, the UN's a joke. They do like one condemnation against North Korea on human rights stuff, and then they have like 70 against Israel. Israel is literally Hitler, bro. Oh man, these people are such a joke. Such a joke. Like I live in a very anti-Israeli part of the world, and it's beyond toxic. So Nicholas writes, I browsed Twitter for a few minutes and I already felt like I was losing my mind. Yeah, well, before you sign off on Twitter, definitely be sure to go follow me at Kevin Castley. So put the link in the Chiron here. So, because I can use the follow. So it'll trigger our enemies. So Jay's here on Twitch. He says, morning, Hawks. Morning, Jay. Everybody go subscribe to the War Kettle on YouTube if you haven't done so yet. He's almost at 4,000 subscribers, so very cool. Olympian God says, Twitter is detrimental to the brain. Yeah, it can be, for sure. Olympian God says, Kevin just wants to see Culver's and Chick-fil-A's in every part of the planet. Oh, yeah, no, I've said this before. Like, imagine, I've had people criticize neocons as saying, well, they basically want to make the whole world look like Wisconsin. Yeah, that'd be based. Have you seen what the world looks like right now? If you live in North Korea, if you are unfortunate enough to be born in North Korea, out of nowhere, the party can come for you. The secret police can come in the night and take you away to the gulags. And you will be working in a mine 18 hours a day and sleeping for 6 hours a day in the mine. And you will continue to do that until your skin falls off and die. And then they will replace you with another person who was found guilty because they needed to meet their quota of being disloyal to the party. And they round up whole families for 3 generations, though most of them don't survive 3 generations in the prison camps. And if you ever had kids there, the kids would be born and live in that camp, and their kids would be born and live in that camp. Because, of course, Kim Il-sung said back in I believe it was 1956 or 1957, when he was really formulating the Juche ideology into practice, he said that in order to wipe out the criminal spirit from the blood, you had to purge the family for 3 generations of labor, essentially. So there are people that are in North Korean gulags today that they are there because of crimes that their grandparents were accused of committing, such as listening to a South Korean radio, for example, in like the 1950s, or having a relative that had been in cooperation with the Americans or accused of that, right? And you're there because your parents were born there and now you're born there. Do I want to make the world look like Wisconsin instead of what we have now? Fuck yes. That's not even debatable. Like, you're going to criticize, I'm not saying you, but like that's a criticism of neocons? No, you're making neocons sound based. So yeah, that's the one right there. Twitter.com/Kevin Castley. Let's go follow. Let's get hawkish. Let's take back the internet from the era of cringe and hogpill the world and save our civilization and perpetuate our influence into the world forever. At Superpower Broadcasting, what's your favorite U.S. state? That's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's got to be either like, Florida or Texas. That's a tough one, though. So. W.R. Winter says, why would you be a neocon when you can be a neo-pro? Well, when I think neo-pro, I'm thinking neo-progressive. And I'm not really a fan of the aggressives. Like, there's no aggressive that I'm a fan of, basically. So, like, I think of myself as more of a liberal, but I'd rather be conservative than a progressive. So, Olympia God says, Kevin, what do you think about Japan not purchasing Aegis ashore? I'll have to do a stream on my thoughts on Japan and militarization with respect to Japan. That's relevant. I mean, I'm interested in North Korea and everything. It is relevant. It's just that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So we'll get into the nuances around that at some point in a later stream. So Wyatt says Wyoming is a cool state because you can stay away from other people easily. The problem with Wyoming is that if either Reese or Yeager log onto the internet, then you're not getting any internet, though, because we've seen that happen before, where because they were both in the same state, both trying to stream, and the bandwidth was getting affected because there aren't really any people in Wyoming. Now that was a meme, but it's probably not that far off. No, Wyoming looks cool though. Wyoming's got good housing prices. Wyoming looks like a kind of place that you could actually build wealth in. So looks cool. Beautiful geography too. So Nick says, I like Virginia, Colorado, or Montana. Oh yeah, Montana looks awesome. I'll say that. Montana looks absolutely awesome. Like, Montana's huge too. So Nicholas says, I'm very partial to New York, is in the city. Oh, I love New York. Like, the city looks freaking awesome. I used to want to be an architect when I was a kid and everything. Like, I thought New York and especially Chicago, I really love the classic American Chicago architecture. I know a lot of people are all hyped on like the zoomy Dubai stuff and everything, and even like the Kuala Lumpur architecture. But I was always like, I just thought Chicago, it just looked big. It looked huge, as Trump would say, right? It's just like, oh man, this stuff, it's a classic. And you can say, oh, it looks boring or whatever, but I'm like, oh man, this stuff looks so cool. I like that like 50s kind of, American style architecture for sure. So, and then of course, the Sears Tower looks based. John Hancock Building, based. Aeon Tower looks based. Trump Tower looks really cool too. It's a bit out of place compared to what like you think of with Chicago architecture, but it's a cool looking building. The problem is, it's like the price in those cities to live in. Like, New York looks awesome, but like, let's keep it real. Even if I had $10 million, I couldn't afford to buy a place there. So, I mean, Olympia God says, hell yeah, Florida, theme park capital of the planet. No, Florida looks based. Florida has like no state income tax. Florida is another place that you could actually build wealth and retire early in. Good luck doing that in New York, even if you make a good salary. So, Ariel Suarez said, he said Florida or Texas. These two states are a joke, so Kevin is joking. And California and New York are his two favorite states. I mean, they are the two states that can actually be their own states. Wait, what? Wait, how am I joking? There's a reason people are moving en masse out of California, especially, but also New York, to places like Texas and Florida, because they're sick of being rent slaves and they want to actually have a chance to build wealth in a state that isn't going to tax them up to their ears. And you all know I have big ears, right? I know it's been a while since we did these streams with webcams, but that was the old meme with the Nick Fuentes fans, right? Oh, look at his ears, he must be a Jew. That's a old school meme on this channel for sure. The ears memes, ears equals Jews. Always get a kick out of that. So Nick Fuentes fans, they're so goofy. What a circus. Nicholas says, I've been to nice parts of Cali, the Las Vegas Strip, and Chicago. Went to a convention in Jersey, attended my cousin's wedding in St. Louis. Been around DC too. Oh, yeah. Well, DC looks based, but like, good luck affording property in DC. Like, you're not going to do it. So, unless like we do this channel for 50 years to get very big and then we can like open up a studio over there or something, but it's going to take decades, right? So, that'd be based though. So I do like the neoclassical architecture and everything else. It's just the city is just out of reach. So to basically everybody who's not, an overpaid bureaucrat, essentially. So yeah, and this is the point, right? Like Arthur's right. It's like, fuck Kelly, it's expensive here. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, it's a joke. Like, there's a reason I want to eventually live in either Texas or Florida. So, like, I live on the West Coast right now. So, yeah, ear gang, ears. How spooky, scary ears. Which, oh no, that's people are gonna get the wrong idea about this chat if they just randomly come in right now. They might get the wrong impression of us here. So Wyatt writes, also funny that Fuentes is, quote, not a Nazi, end quote. But oddly enough, all of his viewers are at least alt-right. Oh, man. Well, it's been a good evening. I appreciate everybody for being here tonight, and more so than just being here and watching me speak, I appreciate the active chat as always. I mean, I gotta say, the two things that really keep me coming back here each night: one, the patron gang, the fact that we're getting about $60 a month right now to come here every day and do these streams for you. The patrons make that happen. But two, you're not just going to sit there and be like 12 watching now, but there's nobody in the chat. You guys got an active chat. Everybody's got good contributions, and it's good to catch up with everybody. You guys are awesome. You guys are the OG hot gang. Like I said, I'll be doing this for 50 years, but you guys are always going to be the OG hawks. So no matter how many people we have viewing, whether it's 13 or 13,000, it's going to be you guys that are the OGs. So I appreciate you guys to the end of the world. So thank you for being with me here tonight. Big up to the patron gang. If you would like to join the patron gang, you can go to patreon.com/superpowerbroadcasting. Once we get up to $100 a month, I will be rolling out daily pre-recorded videos premiering to YouTube, in addition to these daily streams airing live to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. And so with that, definitely be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Definitely be sure to go and follow me over on Twitch so we can get up to that affiliate status. Getting closer each day. And additionally, if you want to leave your Hawk Boy, a one-time donation to show your support, you can check out my PayPal. The link is in the description below. And with that, have a good night, everybody. I will be back here tomorrow. Might be taking the 9 Axes political quiz tomorrow. So do that live. That'll be fun. So have a good night, everybody. Peace.